Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? The funeral of former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon took place today, and there were many speakers, of course. Tony Blair spoke at the funeral, representing the United Kingdom, and Vice President Joe Biden spoke as well. I actually have some audio of Joe Biden's speech, about 3 minutes of it. I'll play it for you in just a moment. Figures from all parts of the political spectrum paid tribute to the former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. Former Prime Minister Ahmed Almert, who replaced Sharon after he fell into a coma in 2006, called him one of the greatest soldiers and fighters for the state of Israel before and after its establishment. Sharon spent his whole life in the line of fire, in the place where the state of Israel's fate was decided. In the beginning of his life, it was the military line of fire. Later, it was the diplomatic line of fire. Olmert said he personally missed Ariel Sharon over the last 8 years, and the whole country will continue to miss him in the future. Let me play a little bit of Vice President Joe Biden's eulogy as he was speaking at the funeral of Israel's former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon.
When a close-knit country like Israel, a country that has been tested as much as Israel, loses a man like Prime Minister Sharon, it doesn't just feel like the loss of a leader. It feels like a death in the family. And many of my fellow Americans, some of whom are here, feel that same sense of loss. I say to Prime Minister Sharon's beloved and devoted sons, Omri and Gilad, and the entire family, but particularly the sons who spent so much time caring for their father in the last few years, it's a great honor you've afforded me on behalf of my country to bring the sympathies of the President of the United States and the American people on this occasion. To you, to Prime Minister Netanyahu and the government of Israel, to President Perez, and to the grieving men and women of the nation of Israel, but most particularly to his beloved IDF, his fellow warriors. I fear an attempt to capture him and what he stood for is beyond my capabilities. I knew him for over 30 years. He was not only a powerful man, he was a powerfully built man, and as a young senator, when you first met him, you could not help but understand, as they say in the military, this man had a command presence. He filled the room. The first time I was invited to his office, he said to me, and I remember thinking, is he serious? He said, Senator, you are mostly welcome. I didn't know if it was a matter of something being lost in translation or whether he was pulling my leg, as we say in the States, until I spent a few moments with him and realized how incredible his hospitality was. But when the topic of Israel's security arose, which it always did in my many meetings over the years with him, you immediately understood how he acquired, as the speakers referenced, the nickname Bulldozer.
Well, because he was so important to the establishment of Israel as a nation. A promise, a covenant that God made with his chosen people, that one day with Abraham, he said, you'll be the father of many nations. And, of course, even David said that in Psalms 83 that the nation of Israel would have many enemies, and they would come together in one consent, They would be in confederate against Israel to try to eliminate Israel and no longer be in remembrance. But a guy like former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon dedicated his entire life to establishing and preserving that very nation that God had coveted. So whenever you hear the prophecy of the 108-year-old Rabbi Kaduri say that after the death of Sharon, the Messiah will come shortly, that the Messiah is the Messiah, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, you can understand the importance of the responsibility that was placed upon the shoulders of Ariel Sharon. Now we're in a peace agreement. He dies after 8 years and 7 months in a coma. 8 years and 7 days, in a coma. He dies, and his 7 days of mourning are coinciding with the 7 days of passage as the comet Ison's debris trail becomes an obstacle for the world. Many meteorites have hit the earth in the last 24 hours all over the world. And I don't know what else will happen in the next 5 to 6 days. But I can say that also the peace agreement process that's going on, which could divide the coveted land and bring about many biblical ramifications. You have to understand the importance of the time we're living in. Something biblical, let me just be honest with you, something biblical is going on with the signs of the second coming of Christ. Are you serious? Are you serious? Give your life to Jesus Christ. And may I say to my friends in Israel, Shalom. Shalom.